Srinivasa was a wealthy man. He made his money as a businessman, dealing in gemstones. The entire town respected him. But Srinivasa's wealth had begun to sneak up in disturbing ways too. Dhim, tanakka dhim, dhim, tanakka dhim, dhim, tanakka dhim, tam, tam, tai, dhim, tanakka dhim, 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 tanakka dhim, 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 tanakka dhim, tam, tam, tai, tadim, tanakka dhim, tajam, tanakka dhim, tadim, tanakka dhim, tam, tam, tai, kiradaga tadim, tanakka dhim, tajam, tanakka dhim, tadim, tanakka dhim, tam, tam, tai. Pride and arrogance began to walk beside him, and in due course seemed to envelop his very persona. The town's poor began to bear the brunt of this arrogance. Until one day, when a poor man arrived at his door, asking for a donation. "I am rather poor, but I initiate my son into education. Please give me a few coins so I may conduct his Upanayanam." Unable to find any other way, the poor man waited until Srinivasa left for work and approached his house again. His wife Saraswati opened the door. The poor man made his plea again to the kind-hearted Saraswati, who instantly took off her nose ring and gave it to him. "Take it. Whatever money you get from it, use it." The sun had just set. The birds had long gone home. Saraswati sat in the dim wick light of the lamp nearby. Nervous and agitated. She had never once lied to anyone in her life. But today, her own husband was questioning her integrity. "I would rather give up my life than turn in that poor man," thought Saraswati. Earlier in the day, that poor man, delighted with Saraswati's generous alms to him, had almost pranced his way to the pawn shop in the town. He had given the nose ring to the shopkeeper, hoping to receive a grand sum of money in return. But Srinivasa recognized his wife's nose ring. He looked up from the nose ring and saw the face of that poor man who had knocked on his door just about an hour ago. Infuriated by his wife going behind his back to donate her ring, Srinivasa was humiliated too. Nevertheless, he composed himself, but told himself that he would confront her as soon as the day's business was wound up. Saraswati knew that there was no way out from the confrontation that was waiting for her on the porch of her house. "I will offer him some water, and then if he questions my integrity over that poor man's desperation, I will leave," she decided. "Yes, that will be it." And as she bent down to pick up the little brass pot of water, Saraswati could not believe her eyes. There in that water was a shining stone. No, wait. One white stone surrounded by 6 others, gleaming back at her as if calling out to her. Saraswati plunged her hand in and pulled out her nose ring. How did her nose ring appear out of nowhere, that too inside this pot of water in her kitchen? Where had that man taken her ring to? And how was Srinivasa then holding on to a ring in his hand that he held out to her right in front of her face? Saraswati was beyond her wits and she rushed out with the ring in hand. As she recounted what had happened after Srinivasa had left in the morning, both Srinivasa and Saraswati stood bewildered, staring at each other. Who was this poor man? And how had a ring appeared out of nowhere into that pot of water? Both of them immediately set out to look for that poor man, but to no avail. Night had befallen the town, and in the incessant chatter of the silent moon, Srinivasa was suddenly awakened to how far he had fallen from the respect he had gained into an abyss of greed, spite, and intolerance. Hours passed, and Srinivasa remained seated on his porch. Tears streamed down as his mind searched and searched for meaning to all that had just transpired. At daybreak, the crow of the rooster had woken up the entire town. Saraswati walked up to Srinivasa to see if he wanted to go look for that poor man, maybe in daylight. I have found him, said Srinivasa. But I know not what I have done to deserve that Srinivasa himself to come knocking on my door. Saraswati smiled. The time had indeed arrived. Srinivasa Nayaka left his home, his riches, his business to those in the town, and left with his family to seek the divine in what we know as the very pulse of this universe, music. For centuries later, we would know of this man as Purandaradasa, Sangeeta Pitamaha.